What if the version of you that's trying to manifest abundance is the very frequency blocking it? There's a strange ache that lingers quietly in those who are almost manifesting, not because they don't visualize, not because they don't believe, but because, without knowing, they're still vibrating as someone they no longer are. Your subconscious mind holds on to an identity that doesn't match what you desire. It doesn't matter how many affirmations you repeat. If the version you inhabit is out of alignment, the field responds with silence. You may feel it, a subtle resistance in the chest, a pull backwards, as if life keeps echoing. You're not quite ready to receive. But the truth behind this resistance is not what you think. If something in you already knows this, like the video and hold that frequency, you're not here by accident. And what if you're not stuck? You're just loyal to a version of you that no longer resonates. There's a moment, often unspoken, sometimes unnoticed, where the soul starts to whisper that something deeper needs to shift. It's not about thinking more positively. It's not about visualizing harder or chasing more content on manifestation. It's the quiet realization that maybe the version of you trying to create abundance isn't the one that can receive it. You may have felt it. You do everything right, yet something invisible keeps looping, like walking towards something you deeply desire, only to feel pulled back by something you can't name. A kind of inner gravity, subtle, persistent, holding you in a field of lack, dressed as normality. That sensation isn't failure, it's a frequency mismatch, and the code behind that mismatch is identity. The subconscious mind doesn't manifest what you want, it manifests what you are. Not in the surface sense of being positive, but in the layered vibrational imprint you carry, shaped by memories, fears, stories, and inherited emotional frequencies. You're not failing. You're simply loyal to a version of yourself that was shaped to survive, not to expand. And that loyalty is vibrational. Frequency is not an intention, it's an embodiment. You don't signal to the universe with your desires, you signal with the identity you unconsciously inhabit. Pause now. Breathe into the part of you that feels tight in the chest. Where in your body do you hold the tension of needing to prove your worth? Where do you feel the ache of not receiving? Again, that sensation isn't just emotional, it's magnetic. Your identity is not just a story, it's a signal. And for many, that signal was set before they even knew they were manifesting. Let's go deeper. What if your sense of I was coded by lack, not because you chose it, but because you absorbed it? Picture a child, sensitive, aware, tuned into everything. That child learned to contract, not by words, but by vibration. He learned that joy made others uncomfortable, that asking meant danger, that receiving brought guilt, and so he became cautious, quiet, attuned to others, disconnected from his own pulse of expansion. That child became you. And even now, as you read about quantum fields and alignment, your nervous system might still be locked in the old contract. It's safer not to shine. It's better to need than to receive. I'll manifest it later, when I'm more worthy. That version of you is not bad. It's brilliant. It kept you safe, but it cannot carry you into abundance, because abundance is not a reward, it's a resonance. So ask yourself, who do I become when I try to manifest, and who do I stop being in the process? This is where true reprogramming begins, not by forcing a new belief, but by dissolving the loyalty to the old identity. And here's the paradox. You don't need to become anything. You only need to stop vibrating as someone you're not. Let this land. Your abundance isn't blocked by the universe. It's blocked by the version of you the universe still believes you are, because that's what your frequency keeps confirming. This is not a punishment. It's an invitation. The quantum field is neutral, exact, responsive. It doesn't judge you. It mirrors the coherence between what you say and what you are. And coherence doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from truth. Maybe you're not stuck. Maybe you're in transition between two frequencies, and the field is waiting for you to choose. Pause again. Close your eyes just for a few seconds. Feel where in your body you're still trying to hold up an identity that no longer fits. Feel the fatigue of efforting, and underneath it, feel the permission to stop. There is no identity more powerful than the one you no longer have to protect. And that freedom, vibrationally, changes everything. If something in your body softened, you're already shifting frequencies. Stay with this space. The real alignment begins in the next layer. And if this echoed inside like a truth you hadn't yet named, like the video and subscribe, not for the algorithm, but for the version of you that's ready to remember. As we transition now, the question is no longer how to manifest. The question becomes, who are you? when you're no longer trying to survive lack, because your abundance isn't missing. It's simply tuned to a frequency your current identity doesn't match. And in the next chapter, we'll enter the field where this identity was first shaped through unspoken codes of fear, silence, and inherited contraction. Not everything you call yours was ever truly you. Some of it was programmed, in silence, in fear, in love distorted by survival. You don't remember the moment it started, but your body does. It remembers the rooms where receiving was dangerous, where joy came with consequence, where needing was met with shame or silence. And so, without knowing, you began to vibrate in adaptation, not in alignment. Most people don't create from desire. They create from a learned distortion of what's safe to desire. They manifest not what they want, but what they think they're allowed to receive. That limitation is rarely conscious. It's coded in the subtle language of emotion, memory, and expectation. What we call normal is often a finely tuned prison. This is the frequency of lack, not just scarcity of money or thing, but scarcity of permission, scarcity of being, scarcity of breath, scarcity of space to just be. Let's go back, way back. Imagine the earliest version of you, before words, before you even knew what manifestation was. You were already picking up signals, from the tone of voices, from the tension in rooms, from the withheld smiles, from the emotional climate you didn't have words for, but your body encoded. Don't be too loud. Don't need too much. It's better not to expect. Be grateful for whatever comes, even if it hurts. None of this was said directly. It didn't have to be. It was felt, in glances, pauses, sighs. It was vibrational, and it became yours. Not by choice, but by resonance. And when something repeats silently long enough, it becomes identity. Not because it's true, but because it's familiar. Not because it's aligned, but because it's what the field kept reflecting back. This is how lack becomes a frequency, not an absence, but a shape. A pulse that trains the nervous system to vibrate just below receiving. A self-image wrapped around unworthiness, like clothes you forgot you were wearing. Pause. Feel the weight of those clothes. Not literally, but emotionally. Do they still fit? Close your eyes for a second. Feel your body as it is. Notice where in your field you still carry that ancient instruction. Don't ask for more. Don't shine too bright. Don't receive too much. This is not you. It's a code, an emotional download inherited from a system that didn't know how to give without control, from ancestors who survived by shrinking, from a culture that praises struggle as virtue. But you were not born to maintain someone else's survival template. You were born to design your own frequency. Let's name it clearly. Lack is a vibrational lineage, and awareness is the beginning of alchemy. Your blocks aren't random. They're organized, encoded, patterned, not to sabotage you, but to keep you in resonance with what once felt safe. Your nervous system learned to associate safety with struggle, and that learning still broadcasts. The subconscious doesn't speak in words. It speaks in permission. And the question it keeps asking is, am I still allowed to receive as I am? Until now, your answer has been shaped by old signals, but a new answer is forming. And it begins by seeing clearly, you were never blocked, you were coded. Imagine this, you're standing in a room. The room is beautiful, filled with light, opportunities, portals, but the windows are tinted, not dark, just dim enough to distort everything outside. You've lived in this room your whole life, and you thought the distortion was real. That tint is the frequency of inherited lack. It's the code you've seen everything through, but the glass is ready to shift, and the light outside and has been waiting. Here's your moment. Place your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Now ask silently, whose frequency am I still carrying? What story do I unconsciously protect with my resistance? Where did I learn that receiving was unsafe? Let the answer come as sensation, not thought. Your body knows. And the moment you witness this without judgment, the code begins to dissolve. If your body responded with a tear, a shiver, or a soft sigh, honor that. It's not breakdown. It's a vibrational update. Comment below, what line in this video felt like it was written for you? That echo isn't random. It's a signal. The truth is, you were never broken. You were programmed. And what's coded can be recoded. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from awareness. And awareness is magnetic. In the next block, we'll explore how frequency is not just a feeling, it's an identity, and how the field doesn't respond to your wishes, but to the coherence between who you say you are and what you embody. Because abundance doesn't come to those who want, it comes to those who remember. I already am the frequency I seek. What if you don't vibrate what you feel, but what you've agreed to be? There's a moment in every seeker's path where the tools stop working. The affirmations feel hollow. The visualizations grow tired. The heart still aches for something it can almost taste but never hold. And in that silence, a question starts to form. If I'm feeling abundance, why doesn't it manifest? If I'm vibrating joy, why does life still reflect lack? The answer is quiet, inconvenient, and liberating. You don't attract what you feel in moments. You attract who you've been for years. Not the joy you create for 5 minutes, not the meditation that felt good last night, but the vibrational identity you keep returning to, especially when no one is watching. This is what the quantum field responds to. Not intensity, not intention, but consistency. Let that land. The field doesn't echo your hope. It mirrors your coherence. You may have believed that frequency is a feeling. And yes, feelings matter. But a feeling is a wave. It rises, fades, fluctuates. Identity, on the other hand, is a station. It broadcasts constantly, even when you're not trying. Let's slow this down. Close your eyes. Feel the last time you were disappointed. Not because something didn't happen, but because it almost did. Now feel what version of you emerged in that moment. What did your inner voice say? See, it never works. I knew it wouldn't last. I'm not really meant for this. That was just luck. That is your default frequency. Not because it's true, but because it's familiar. Because it's where your nervous system goes when it's not actively being rewired. And here's the truth. You don't manifest from your peak state. You manifest from your persistent self-image. Let's call it what it is. Your frequency is your self-concept, emotionally encoded. Not the words you say, but the story you believe about who you are. Pause here. Who are you? When no one's watching, what do you expect? Not on the surface, but in your bones. What is your baseline feeling about life, money, love, the universe? This is your identity frequency. And unless it's updated, no ritual, no affirmation, no high vibe playlist will override the coherence of who you've agreed to be. And this isn't a punishment. It's precision. It's integrity. It's quantum mathematics in action. Let's anchor this metaphor. Imagine a radio tower. It transmits a signal 24/7. That signal doesn't change because you wish it would. It changes when you recalibrate the source, when you rewrite the message at the core. Now imagine your subconscious as that tower. It's broadcasting a message about who you are, right now, not who you want to be, who you believe you are. That broadcast is your frequency, and the field is simply echoing it back. So when you say, I want to manifest abundance, but you unconsciously believe, I'm still that person who can't hold it, the field doesn't judge. It listens. It responds. It reflects. This is the law of identity. It overrides intention, because identity is vibrationally dominant. Let's take a breath. Place your hand over your chest. Close your eyes. Ask this gently. What do I still believe I must struggle for? What part of me is still vibrating and waiting, not receiving? Where did I agree to be someone that life must constantly correct? Breathe. This isn't about blame. This is about remembering that every identity is optional, even the ones that feel like truth, especially those. Because truth, in the quantum field, is not what's most logical. It's what's most vibrationally rehearsed. Identity is not what you remember. It's what your nervous system expects. Think of your subconscious identity like a soft operating system running quietly beneath everything you do. It governs not only how you act, but what you allow yourself to receive, what you feel natural in, what you unconsciously believe is just how life is. This identity isn't just a thought. It's a structure made of emotion, wired through repetition, held in the fascia of the body. You don't manifest in the mind. You manifest in the body, because that's where identity lives. Let's visualize this. Picture two versions of yourself. One, the version that deeply believes abundance is natural. It moves differently, breathes slower, doesn't check the result 10 times. It relaxes into trust, because it doesn't perform trust. It is trust. The other, the version trying to manifest. It's hopeful, eager, sincere, but slightly tense. It's still negotiating with the universe, still waiting for proof. Still trying to earn something it doesn't feel fully worthy of. Here's the difference. One is being, the other is trying. And the field always responds to the one you are, not the one you hope to become, not the one you perform for 30 minutes in meditation, but the one you return to in silence. That's your frequency identity, and that's what's being reprogrammed. Right now, let's go deeper. Recall a time you received something effortlessly. It could be a compliment, a gift, a synchronicity. Now notice, did you try to receive it? Did you repeat affirmations, or did it simply arrive? What was different in that moment? Chances are, you were being your natural self. You weren't reaching. You weren't resisting. You weren't trying to become anything. You had, even for a moment, returned to coherence. Coherence between the identity you inhabited and the abundance the field was ready to deliver. And that's the secret. The quantum field doesn't test you. It aligns with your most consistent identity, even when it's subtle. So here's your ritual for today. Find a quiet place. Sit. Breathe deeply into your belly. Exhale slowly through the mouth, 3 times. Now ask silently, if abundance were already mine, how would I breathe? How would I sit? How would I move through the day? Then do it. Not perfectly, just once. Feel it in your body. That movement is more powerful than 100 affirmations because it's identity rehearsal, and that's how frequency updates. We're nearing a powerful truth. You don't need to vibrate higher. You need to return to the frequency that already belongs to you, beneath the conditioning, the proving, the performance, because your true identity has never been lack, never been fear, never been effort. It's coherence, it's presence, it's a quiet certainty that you no longer need to try, because you already are. And in the next block, we'll walk into the paradox that shocks many seekers. Quantum manifestation isn't magic, it's coherence, and abundance doesn't respond to longing, but to emotional precision. Maybe the universe isn't ignoring you. Maybe it's just being painfully precise. There's a story many of us were sold, that manifestation is like magic, that if you believe enough, desire hard enough, and stay high vibe, things will just happen. As if the universe were Santa Claus with a mood detector. But here's what they didn't say. The quantum field isn't a wish granter. It's a coherence amplifier. It doesn't respond to the part of you that wants. It responds to the part of you that is. Let that sink in. It doesn't care about your vision board. If your body still vibrates in fear, it doesn't care how many affirmations you write. If your nervous system still expects rejection, not because it's cruel, but because it's exact. The field isn't magical, it's mathematical, and the equation it reads is identity, X emotion, X repetition, manifestation. Think of it like a tuning fork. You strike one, and any fork tuned to the same frequency will start to vibrate in resonance. No words, no trying, just physics. Now, imagine that your identity is a tuning fork, and the field around you is listening. When your internal frequency matches the vibration of what you're asking for, it comes effortlessly. But when it doesn't, no amount of wishing can override that dissonance. The problem is, most people don't know what they're actually tuned to. They think they're vibrating love, but their body is still protecting against abandonment. They think they're aligned with money, but their cells still remember shame. They think they're calling in success, but their breath shortens when they imagine being seen. That's not failure, that's misalignment. And misalignment isn't personal, it's mechanical. Pause here, take a breath. Feel where your body tightens when you hear the word abundance. Your chest, your throat, your solar plexus. Now feel what your nervous system does when you say, I allow myself to receive effortlessly. Do you feel truth or tension? That tension is your clue. Not that you're broken, but that your internal tuning fork is still calibrated to an old song. And the field? It's simply not vibrating back. Not because it can't, but because it can only meet you in resonance. Let's go deeper. You've heard people say, just raise your frequency. But here's the truth. You don't raise frequency by pushing away fear. You raise it by becoming honest, by noticing where you're incoherent, where you say one thing but feel another, where you want to receive, but still brace for disappointment. This honesty is the first act of alignment, because the quantum field doesn't care about fake positivity. It responds to emotional precision, not perfection. Precision, that subtle, brave act of feeling what's real and choosing what's aligned. That's what collapses reality. Imagine your inner world as a symphony. Each belief is an instrument, each emotion, a tone, each behavior, a rhythm. Now ask, what kind of music does my field play when I'm not controlling it? Is it soft and receptive, or chaotic and fragmented? Do my words match my rhythm, or am I out of sync with my own desire? This is coherence, not being high vibe, but being in tune with your truth, with your desire, with your actions, with your identity. This is what the quantum responds to, not the loudest feeling, but the most congruent signal. Coherence isn't about being positive. It's about being consistent between who you are, how you feel, and what you embody. You can't fake coherence, not with the universe, not with your body, because coherence is the sacred moment when everything in you says the same thing, without contradiction, without inner resistance. You say yes, and your breath expands. You receive, and your heart stays open. You speak, and your body doesn't flinch. This is alignment, and in that alignment, reality bends. Because the field doesn't wait for effort, it responds to permission. But let's be honest, most people live in contradiction. They affirm abundance, but shrink when it knocks. They visualize success, but sabotage the follow-through. They pray for love, but mistrust anyone who gets too close. This is emotional dissonance, and it's not wrong. It's human, but it has a frequency, and that frequency speaks louder than your words. You can't manifest coherence while vibrating in conflict, and you can't receive expansion while rehearsing contraction. This is why awareness matters more than intensity, why feeling a subtle shift in truth is more powerful than screaming a mantra, because truth is frequency specific. It exists at a vibration, and it only reveals itself when you match it. Let's visualize. Imagine your entire being as a harp, each string tuned to a different emotion, one for fear, one for joy, one for self-worth, one for trust. Now imagine a desire, say abundance, touching one string. What happens? Does the whole harp sing in resonance, or does it go out of tune? Do you feel harmony or hesitation? This is your signal to the field, not your wish, your tone, and reality. It doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what your harp is playing, consistently. Now take a moment. Put one hand on your belly, one on your heart. Breathe in gently and slowly out. Ask silently, where in me am I still pretending to be aligned while secretly waiting for proof? Where do I say I trust but still scan for safety? Where am I pushing when my true frequency wants to relax and receive? Let the answer come without judgment, because even this honesty was coherence. If something softened inside you, that's coherence beginning, and you don't need to force it. You just need to keep choosing truth. To deepen this tuning, there's a reprogramming designed exactly for this shift. You'll find it in the pinned comment. Here's your practice for today. Choose one desire. Sit with it. Don't visualize it. Feel who you become in its presence. Breathe as that version. Speak one sentence, out loud, as that self. Notice what shifts. This is identity rehearsal. This is vibrational truth training. And the more you practice, the more the field recognizes the signal. Oh, now you're ready. Because readiness isn't effort, it's embodiment. We're about to cross into a new landscape, the space between frequencies, the bridge that connects your old self, coded by survival, and your becoming self, tuned for truth. It's not a leap, it's a crossing. And in the next block, we'll walk this bridge juntos, where timelines collapse, the old self begins to dissolve, and a new resonance starts to take form. Because frequency doesn't just shift through will, it shifts through identity surrender. There's a sacred space between versions, the threshold, and most people don't know they're standing on it. Somewhere in you, the old self is still echoing, not because it's bad, not because it wants to sabotage you, but because it was trained to protect. The you that overthinks, the you that holds back, the you that needs to figure it all out before taking one step. That version learned to survive uncertainty by controlling it, to survive rejection by hiding, to survive emptiness by not expecting too much. This version of you is not wrong. It's exhausted. And here's the truth. You can't become the new you while resenting the old you. You have to thank them, not intellectually, vibrationally, because that's how release happens. Not through war, but through recognition. Let's walk the bridge. Close your eyes, unless you're driving. Breathe softly into your belly. Now imagine yourself standing at the edge of a wide, glowing bridge. Behind you is the self you've been. Notice what they're wearing, how they stand, what they're afraid to feel. Look into their eyes and say silently, "Thank you. You kept me safe. But now, I release you." Now turn gently toward the bridge. It's pulsing, alive, calling. This bridge is not linear. It's not a timeline. It's a vibration. And every step you take on it is not forward, it's inward, into resonance, into coherence, into becoming. You are not walking into a new future. You are walking into the frequency that was always yours, beneath the noise. But let's be honest, crossing this bridge isn't always graceful. It's messy. It shakes loose all the hidden contracts you made with fear. I'll stay small if they love me. I won't ask for too much if life stops hurting me. I'll be invisible if it means I'm safe. These contracts don't dissolve in logic. They dissolve in vibration, in honesty, in grief, in release. And that's the space you're in now. The beautiful, unbearable in-between. Not who you were, not fully who you are becoming. Just in transit, raw, sacred, powerful beyond belief. Let that truth settle. Most people fear this space. They rush through it, avoid it, sedate it with action, content, productivity. But this in-between, it's a portal, a holy field of potential. And if you stay here long enough, not as a prison but as a passage, something ancient dissolves, and something eternal begins to pulse. Because this is not the void. It's the space before the song. It's the breath before the first word. It's the frequency reconfiguring before coherence sings it into reality. Becoming isn't about building something new. It's about remembering what's always been yours. And finally, agreeing to live it. You don't need to force this shift. You just need to stay with it. Long enough for the old rhythm to lose its hold. Long enough for your nervous system to trust something different. Because here's the truth. Your old self wasn't just a personality. It was a frequency, built layer by layer through emotion, repetition, and survival. And that frequency still runs silently in your background until you choose to recalibrate, not by cutting anything off, but by retuning your resonance. Here's the moment of crossing. Close your eyes. Return to the bridge. Feel yourself in the middle. Not who you were, not fully who you are. Now, ahead of you, there's another version waiting. They look like you, but lighter, more grounded, more open. This version doesn't hustle for worth, doesn't over-explain their joy, doesn't shrink in the presence of abundance. They don't try to manifest. They embody a frequency that makes manifestation inevitable. Walk toward them. Feel the steps as sensations in your body, not forward, but downward, into presence, into breath, into self. Now stand face to face. Look at them and listen, not with ears, but with vibration. They whisper, "I've always been here. You just forgot your way back." Place your hand over your heart. Inhale slowly. Exhale with sound. Let go of trying. Let go of becoming. Just be. If this crossing felt real, not as an idea, but as something your whole body recognized, subscribe now to stay in this field. You're not the only one walking this bridge, and you don't have to do it alone. Like this video if something in you remembered, because that remembrance is how we find each other. Now take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what can I now release with gratitude? What version of me no longer fits? Not because it failed, but because it finished its work. What does it feel like to finally not need to deserve abundance? These aren't affirmations. They are keys. And you are the door. Because the bridge you just crossed was never outside. It was always inside. And in the next block, we will plant the new signal. We will reprogram the inner code that allows abundance to land. Not as a concept, but as a frequency that the body begins to hold. Not as a dream, but as the new normal. You've tried asking. You've tried visualizing. But have you ever allowed yourself to truly receive? Receiving isn't passive. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing the one thing most people avoid. Becoming energetically open while feeling completely safe. Because receiving is vulnerability. Receiving is trust, without armor. And for many, that's the scariest frequency of all. Let's begin with this truth. You were born to receive with grace, but somewhere along the way, you started preparing for loss instead. You learned to brace, to hold your breath, to expect the other shoe to drop. And so when abundance knocks, you don't open the door. You hide, even when you want to say yes, because your nervous system still believes it's safer to need than to have. But what if we change that, not by force, but by feeling? Let's begin. Close your eyes if you can. Place one hand on your chest, one on your belly. Let your breath be soft. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Again, slower. Now, imagine this. You are sitting in the center of a quiet field. Nothing around, just space. Warm air, open sky. Above you, a subtle light begins to descend. It's not dramatic. It doesn't force its way. It waits for your yes. This light holds the vibration of receiving, not the things you want, but the feeling you've avoided, the softness, the surrender, the spaciousness of saying, I'm not earning this, I'm allowing it. Now, breathe again. Feel your belly expand. Say, silently or out loud, I allow myself to receive, even if I don't know how. And notice what your body does. Does it flinch? Contract? Soften? There's no wrong answer. Only information. Only signal. Now say, I allow good things to reach me, without effort, apology, or delay. Let the words echo, not as commands, but as invitations. Because the subconscious listens not to pressure, but to permission. The field doesn't need you to prove your worth. It's just waiting for you to stop guarding your heart. Receiving is not a strategy, it's a frequency. And you cannot fake frequency. You can, however, return to it. By choice, by softness, by surrender. Let's go deeper. You're still in the field. The light above you has grown warmer. It pulses in rhythm with your breath. It doesn't rush. It waits, like love does, like truth does, like abundance always has. Now, imagine that this light touches the top of your head, and instead of pouring in, it waits, just waits, until you do one thing. Say yes, not with words, with presence, with softness in your belly, with the unguarding of your shoulders, with the exhale that doesn't hide. Now breathe, and say, I say yes to the frequency of receiving. I release all agreements with delay, doubt, and deprivation. Let it echo through your body. Again, I allow what is mine to reach me now. Pause. Stillness. Let the nervous system integrate. This is not a mantra, it's a decision. Now place both hands over your heart, gently, almost as if you're holding something fragile or ancient. Because you are. This is your original frequency, the one that knew long before the world taught you to resist. Let's anchor it now. Say silently, I remember, I receive, I radiate. Inhale, exhale with sound. Let the vibration move. And now, let the field listen. Because this vibration, it doesn't come from effort. It comes from coherence. You are no longer chasing. You are attuning. If you felt something land, not just as an idea but as a shift in breath or posture, know this, you're not alone in this field. Subscribe now to keep this frequency alive. You're not just watching a video, you're remembering who you are, with others who feel the same. Like this moment if you're ready to hold it longer. We're almost there. You've released, you've crossed, you've remembered. But to live this frequency, you must return to the body, not just in ritual, but in routine, in decisions, in movement, in how you wake, walk, speak. Because receiving is not a spiritual event, it's a way of inhabiting your world. And in the next block, you'll learn to walk as the frequency, so reality has no choice but to reflect it. Most people act to get something, but the quantum doesn't respond to effort. It responds to embodiment. If you've come this far, something already shifted in you. Not just what you believe, but what you can now hold. And now, the field waits. Not to test you, but to match you. Because action in the quantum field isn't about force, it's about frequency. And the actions you take, small or large, carry your identity signature. Not what you do, but who you are while doing it. Let that echo. Think of this. Two people say the same words, take the same step. One is hoping, the other is knowing. One acts to receive, the other acts because receiving already feels natural. That's the difference between movement and manifestation. Movement without frequency is performance. Movement with identity is activation. So today we begin again, but not by doing more, by remembering through the way we move, through what we choose when no one is watching, because the field is always watching. Not with eyes, with resonance. Let's begin simple. Ask yourself, if I were already in full coherence, how would I respond to this email? How would I breathe before this conversation? How would I walk into this room? This is not a game. This is neurological rehearsal. And the brain, when flooded with congruent repetition, can no longer tell if it's pretend or true. That's where the field responds, to the body that already knows. Because what you repeat, you become. And what you become is what the universe mirrors. There's something else here. You've probably been taught that doing contradicts surrender, that action breaks the magic, but that's a misunderstanding. It's not action that blocks receiving, it's anxious action. It's trying to fix what your frequency hasn't finished recalibrating yet. Aligned action, on the other hand, is movement that feels like exhale. It doesn't force the field. It flows from the field already shifting. It's what you do when you're not waiting for results. You're just walking in rhythm with the self you've remembered. Every step you take is either an echo of your old self or a rehearsal of the new one. You already know this. The quantum doesn't wait for effort. It waits for resonance. But what most people miss is this. Resonance is a lifestyle, not a moment, not a mood. And that lifestyle begins in the invisible. How you walk into a room, how you check your bank balance, how you speak when you think no one is listening, how you breathe when no one is watching. Because the field is always listening, not to your words, but to your consistency. And every micro choice you make is a broadcast. So let's ask the real question. Are your actions matching your desired reality or your practiced identity? Because the most common sabotage doesn't come from fear, it comes from familiarity. You wake up, and even after all this work, you slip back into the posture of waiting, the breath of scarcity, the internal monologue of, just in case it doesn't happen, and your body doesn't know you're just being careful. Your body thinks, this is who we are, and the field reflects it with painful precision. Let's create a shift, right now. Think of one action you take daily that feels automatic. Maybe checking your phone, replying to a message, looking in the mirror. Now pause, ask yourself, what version of me is doing this? The one who still hopes, or the one who already knows? Then, do it again, differently, with intention, with breath, with the frequency of someone who trusts the field is already shifting, because that one decision, repeated with resonance, changes your signal, and the field doesn't wait, it shifts with you. Let's talk about movement. Your body holds patterns, not just of posture, but of belief. How you walk reflects what you expect. Do you lean forward slightly? Are your shoulders tense? Does your breath stay shallow? These are not just habits, they're physical prayers. And if your body is still rehearsing resistance, no amount of mental alignment can override that. Because manifestation isn't cognitive, it's somatic. So today, change one movement. Not to get something, but to feel like someone. Let your steps slow down. Let your spine lengthen. Let your exhale soften. Move as the version who is no longer searching. Move as the version who has returned. And now, language. You've likely said things like, I hope it happens soon. I'm trying to trust. We'll see what the universe decides. These are not just sentences, they're contracts. Subtle ways your old identity negotiates with the field. Without committing, let's reframe them. I'm rehearsing my receiving posture. I'm allowing my body to catch up with what's already mine. The field doesn't need convincing, just consistency. This isn't about being fake. It's about being fluent in frequency. Let your words become rehearsals of truth, not fillers of doubt. Today, choose one. Pay a bill with the energy of release, not tension. Respond to a message with the frequency of already having space. Walk for 5 minutes as if your field was already restructured. Speak one sentence, out loud, as if abundance is now your baseline, and don't do it to prove anything. Do it to anchor the new self. Because each time you act from the identity you're becoming, your old self loses gravity. And that's not metaphor, that's biology. That's resonance. That's how timelines collapse. The world won't confirm your frequency immediately. But that's not the point. You're not acting to get reality to respond. You're acting because it already has. Your frequency has shifted. Your signal is different. And the universe, like a sacred delay, is adjusting its mirrors. Let it. The moment you stop needing proof is the moment you start becoming the proof. This is the part no one likes to talk about. The stillness. The space between I chose and it happened. The days where the old still echoes and the new hasn't quite arrived. But what if this space isn't delay? What if it's confirmation in disguise? What if the field isn't withholding? It's aligning? Because the quantum doesn't move by wish. It moves by coherence. And coherence takes stability under pressure, not perfection, just presence. Let's be honest. The old self doesn't die quietly. It returns. Subtly. Persuasively. Maybe this isn't working. Maybe I got too confident. Maybe I should go back to what's safe. And it makes sense. Because the nervous system is still updating. Because your body doesn't yet know how to live in the new. But here's where the work is no longer mental. It's embodied. Holding the frequency isn't waiting. It's rehearsing. It's staying consistent when feedback is silent. It's believing in vibration more than appearances. Let's make it real. Picture a tuning fork. You strike it, and it hums. High, clear, pure. Now imagine a second fork. It doesn't respond immediately. It takes a second, because resonance requires stabilization. And if you stop vibrating too soon, the second fork never responds. That's manifestation. It's not a wish. It's a song held long enough for the world to start singing back. The frequency you walk in becomes the world you walk in, but only if you don't drop the signal too soon. Let's anchor it. Ask yourself, what part of me still needs evidence before I allow belief? What's the story I tell myself when results take time? What would happen if I let go of needing soon and practiced now? These questions aren't mindset hacks. They're identity recalibrators, because the self that knows doesn't need external proof to continue. They walk, they breathe, they act, as if the field has already rearranged because inside it has. In a moment of subtle frustration, pause. Place your hand over your heart and ask, which version of me is present right now? Breathe, and choose to respond as the version who already lives in the frequency. Take one micro-action with that signature. Notice what shifts, not out there, but in here. This is the practice, and the more you repeat it, the more the field whispers back, now, it's true. Reality doesn't respond to effort, it responds to who you've become when no one is watching. There's a moment when it clicks, when you stop waiting, when you stop adjusting your signal based on what shows up, and instead, you stabilize. You become the tone, the pulse, the presence, and the field, no longer confused, begins to organize around you, because this is what the field does best. It doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what matches. So if you've come this far, if you've walked through contraction, crossed the bridge, reprogrammed the signal, there's one question left. Are you ready to live as the new frequency, even when nothing asks you to? Here's where it gets simple and powerful. Your new signal doesn't need proving, it needs protecting, and that protection looks like devotion, waking up and moving with grace, making decisions not from panic, but from presence, letting your nervous system relax right into abundance as a default. This is how you become the signal, not in your head, but in your walk, in your words, in your weight, because coherence doesn't just create change, it makes change unavoidable. Let's plant some anchors. Choose a gesture, a small one, a hand on your chest, a pause before answering, a deeper breath before opening a door. Let this gesture mean, I am returning to my frequency. Use it when fear speaks. Use it when results delay. Use it when your old self whispers, what if? And each time you do, you remind the field, I'm not going back. Every day, choose one thing to do as the frequency. Pour water as the version who already lives in abundance. Write an email as the version who trusts the field. Rest as someone who no longer fears being still. And remember, the version of you that does this is already being felt, not because of the words you say, but the signal you've become. In the next and final block, we'll close not with instruction, but with elevation. We'll celebrate what's already shifted, and we'll plant the vibration of what comes next, not with goals, but with gravity, with vision, with truth. Because now, your field isn't searching, it's calling. There comes a moment where you stop searching for the field and realize you've become it. You've walked, you've released, you've reprogrammed, embodied, and remembered. And now, you're not the same. Even if your life still looks familiar, you feel different, not because you tried, but because you surrendered. You surrendered needing to force, needing to prove, needing to wait for signs before believing in your own signal. And that shift changes everything, because the quantum isn't looking for perfection, it's looking for stability and truth. And when your truth becomes unshakable, even in stillness, the universe has to rearrange, not out of favor, out of physics. So let's return. Close your eyes if you can. Come back to breath. One hand on your belly, one hand on your heart. And imagine this, you're no longer outside the field. You're in it, but not as a visitor, as part of it. The same way a wave is part of the ocean, the same way light doesn't touch, it illuminates. You are not seeking frequency. You are radiating it. Let that sink in. You've become the tone. You've become the signal. You've become the space. There's nothing else to fix, nothing left to chase. Only one thing to deepen. Your ability to stay open when it all starts working. Your capacity to relax into what you once thought you had to earn. Because now, the field isn't reacting to your thoughts. It's mirroring your embodiment. And embodiment doesn't ask. It declares, quietly, calmly, consistently. You've crossed timelines, not in one leap, but breath by breath, choice by choice, gesture by gesture. You've remembered who you were before the world taught you to fear having. You are no longer the version who needed to be convinced. You are the one who knows. Let's integrate this, not as a lesson, but as a frequency. Breathe in, feel your chest rise, feel the ground beneath you, steady, ready. Now, repeat silently. I don't chase, I attune. I don't hustle, I hold. I don't seek, I shine. Let each phrase land, not just as words, but as resonance, a signal, a yes to life, without condition. Because now, you walk differently, not faster, not louder, but truer. You're no longer trying to become, you're remembering what you've always been. A tuning fork, a field in motion, a home for what's already aligned. If this video didn't just make sense, but made something in you soften, open, or shift. Subscribe now, not to follow more content, but to stay inside this frequency, because the next video isn't just another episode, it's another remembering, and you'll feel it when it calls you. The field is always waiting, and now you're ready to return to it as you are.